I was recently at a security conference in Vancouver, and a senior government official gave a speech and said the public needs to understand when it comes to cybersecurity, we're at war. Who are we at war with?
Well, it certainly feels like we're at war. I mean, from our perspective, there's cyber threats that we see every single day. So as part of the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, we defend the government. We also work very closely with critical infrastructure across the country and deal with stuff every single day, right? So in terms of who we're at war with, it's threat actors that could be from nation states, depending on who they're targeting. There's cyber criminals that are really motivated by profit, that are a threat to individual Canadians, small, medium enterprise, critical infrastructure, and governments, of course. So certainly a wide variety of threat actors that are out there. And really it's our digital dependence that's increasing at an ongoing rate that really expands the threat surface at an ongoing, basically nonstop.
So again, at this conference, when it comes to nation states, some of the ones that were mentioned were China and Russia, Iran, North Korea. Is that right? Is that on the list?
Yeah, so since 2018, we've been putting out our National Cyber Threat Assessment, really to be a public-facing document as to what we think was worrisome to Canada. And since 2018, we've named primarily China and Russia, but then North Korea and Iran as well.
So you have countries that are attacking perhaps Canada. You have criminals who are attacking companies and individuals to try to make money. You have some criminal organizations, I guess, that are proxies for governments. And then do we still have hackers who are just trying to create mischief?
Yeah, you still have patriotic hackers. I mean, there's the idealistic hackers that are out there. We saw during the Russia-Ukraine conflict as well. People taking sides, right, and hacking for their ethical reasons or whatever was motivating them to do. So there's a whole range of these cyber threats.
Over recent weeks, BC has been hit by a slew of cyber attacks.
They're tools used to infect computers, lock down files, and demand ransom from unsuspecting users.
A ransomware attack on October 23rd hit all 5 hospitals in southwestern Ontario.
And in terms of the cyber criminals who are going for profit, the big means of doing that, I guess, is ransomware.
Ransomware is still the most impactful form of cybercrime. The impact is significant. We've seen small, medium enterprises that are impacted by this, where they've lost all of their data, they've been locked out of their systems. And it's not just the cost of paying the ransom, which you're paying to cyber criminals, right? So what does that contract you really have when you're actually paying a ransom where they promise to delete the data or not? There's no guarantee in any of that. At the same point in time, there's still the recovery costs. You have to recover your network, clean up your network, remove the malware. And then there's the business impact of being down for that period of time. So there's multiple costs involved in ransomware, incredibly impactful for businesses.
And you're getting early indications of likely ransomware attacks on Canadian targets all the time.
We are getting them all the time. Right?
Like how often?
It varies week to week. In the last couple of weeks, we've been putting out about 20 of these per week.
20.
Last year, we had put out 300 pre-ransomware notifications for the calendar year. So that's pretty significant. And from our perspective, that's very impactful as well. If you can prevent one of these, it's a big deal. Getting 300 in a year, we're actually quite proud of it.
Yeah, and your predecessor, the previous head, told a story, without giving details, about the RCMP actually having to go and knock on the door of an executive to say, this is for real, there's something you guys need to do, and the cybersecurity center is for real also.
That was absolutely real. I mean, we had the intelligence to actually warrant the urgency. We wanted to reach out. We knew that there was importance to us doing that. Tried to connect with the organization multiple different ways. Were unable to do so. Tried to connect with the CEO, called the RCMP. The RCMP almost pretty much had to go to their house and actually made contact for us to be able to reach out.
What about attacks on infrastructure? So again, these bad actors who are trying to get control of pipelines or the electrical grid. Again, it sounds like the plot of a movie. Is that really happening?
In our last National Cyber Threat Assessment that was in October, we talked about nation states and their motivations, and it always used to be espionage, geopolitical advantage, gaining some type of economic advantage over other countries. But more recently, we've been talking more and more about disruption. So pre-positioning on critical infrastructure where there's no real intelligence value, so the only real value would be to be able to disrupt a critical service. There's been reports of this in the US. We're highly connected with US infrastructure as well, so it's certainly a legit threat for Canada, and it's something that we had flagged in our October threat assessment.
I was kind of surprised that the center's also kind of guarding against or being vigilant about disinformation. And so we're probably almost certainly going to have an election this year in Canada, and a lot of people are concerned again about whether it's a foreign government or just a group trying to sow chaos, that there'll be sort of attempts to attack us through misinformation. How great is the concern there?
Misinformation is critical. Everyone's got a megaphone now that's able to put out a false narrative, and then you can now justify or substantiate false narratives with synthetic content through AI and other sorts of means like that. So it's a challenge for all countries around the world, and in the space of an election, we know that nation states use information operations as part of their apparatus.
We hear a lot about the Five Eyes and the intelligence sharing between Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. Mm-hmm. But these are tumultuous times in the United States, and we've seen it certainly on the trade front.
Canada is very tough. Canada is very, we're not treated well by Canada, and we have to be treated well.
The actions taken today by the White House split us apart instead of bringing us together.
What kind of impact has the new administration had and all the changes had on intelligence gathering?
Yeah, like all Canadians, we're watching the news and seeing what the changes are. But from our perspective, in terms of our interactions, we go back 75, 80 years of history in terms of working with the Five Eyes, working with the U.S. and our other partners. And so far, all good. We're unaffected, and we'll continue that. I'd like to think that cybersecurity is a nonpartisan issue. So we work together in terms of defending our countries, and we expect that to continue.
Hearing about all the cyber threats out there, it's very easy to feel that it's so bleak that we should be very pessimistic. And so I wonder, what's your message for the average Canadian, not the IT expert, but the average Canadian when it comes to all of these cyber threats that we're facing?
For the average Canadian, I would say, first of all, recognizing that it's important to take cybersecurity seriously and that not be overwhelmed by all of the threats and really just do the basics. So if you go to, getcybersafe.ca, that's really our website for individuals in Canada, do some of the basics like multi-factor authentication, patching their applications, having strong passwords as well. The simple steps that you actually take in that really do help prevent you from 80% of the threats that we see.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.